She watched the footage 3 times before she could say anything. Then she sat on the kitchen floor and cried for a reason that had nothing to do with what she thought she'd seen. Her daughter had been pointing her finger at the dog for 5 straight minutes, and the dog had been backing up, step by step, herding the girl in the opposite direction from the sliding glass door. Her daughter was furious. The dog was calm. And the glass door led to the backyard, where something was waiting that Chloe Bernstein would not learn about for another 40 minutes. Chloe was a graphic designer who worked from home 3 days a week. She had a 2.5-year-old named Danny, fiercely verbal, fearlessly mobile, the kind of toddler who treated every limit as a suggestion. They had a Siberian Husky named Koda, 3 years old, 52 pounds, ice blue eyes that strangers always stopped to comment on. He had been raised alongside Danny from the time she was 8 months old. On that Thursday afternoon, Chloe was upstairs on a video call. The baby monitor showed Danny in the living room with Koda. Danny wanted to go outside. She went to the sliding glass door and pulled. It was unlocked. Koda moved across the room and stood in front of the door. Danny pushed past him. He stepped sideways and blocked her again. Danny, who had the vocabulary of someone twice her age and the reasoning of someone her exact age, pointed at him and said, "Koda, move." He did not move. She pushed against him. He backed up slowly, taking her with him, both of them moving away from the door. Chloe saw none of this in real time. What she saw when she came downstairs after her call was her daughter standing in the center of the living room with her hands on her hips, genuinely furious, pointing at Koda and repeating his name in the specific tone she used when she believed she had been wronged. Koda was sitting 3 feet away, watching her with the patient alertness of a dog who has done something and intends to continue doing it. Chloe assumed conflict over a toy, over access to the yard, over some piece of Toddler terrain that had been contested and lost. She told Danny she could go outside now. She unlocked the sliding door and let her out. 40 minutes later, the neighbor knocked on the front door. "There's a copperhead in your yard," he said. "I almost stepped on it by the back fence. I was going to call animal control. The snake had been there when Danny tried to go out. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you are in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one." Chloe pulled up the living room camera footage that evening and watched what had happened while she was upstairs on her call. She watched Koda cross the room the moment Danny's hand touched the door handle. She watched him step into her path. She watched Danny push and argue and point, and she watched Koda absorb every piece of it without budging, without vocalizing, without anything that looked like dominance or aggression. Just systematic, patient, complete refusal to let her pass. She watched the footage 3 times, and then she sat down on the kitchen floor. Dr. Leanne Fogarty, veterinary behaviorist at Piedmont Animal Behavior Center, reviewed the footage at Chloe's request and explained what Koda had detected. Copperhead snakes produce a specific chemical signature, a musk released as a defense mechanism, detectable by a dog's olfactory system at parts per billion concentration, through a closed glass door, particularly when the snake is agitated or stationary in a defensive position near the exit point. Koda had smelled the snake before Danny's hand reached the handle. He had positioned himself between her and the door, and had stayed there through everything she used against him. And he had used the one tool available to him in that situation, his own body. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. Danny does not understand what Koda did that afternoon. She knows that she was very angry with him, and that she was not allowed to go outside, and that now there is a rule about the backyard door that involves a grown-up checking first. She accepts this rule with the pragmatism of a 3-year-old who has encountered enough limits to know they can eventually be worked with. Koda operates on a simpler framework. The door is a point of concern. The child is his responsibility. These 2 facts coexist in him without conflict and without the need for anyone to validate them. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Animal Control removed the copperhead from the yard late that Thursday afternoon. It was mature, 30 inches, and had been positioned near the base of the back fence in the patch of shade where Danny liked to collect rocks. Koda watched them carry it out from the sliding glass door, standing beside Danny, who wanted to see. He did not react to it. He had already processed it. He had already done what he needed to do with the information, and the information was now handled. He turned away from the door before the animal control officer had reached his truck, crossed the living room, and lay down on his mat. Danny followed him and sat beside him and put her hand on his back. She had stopped being angry at him sometime around lunch. The next story involves a family dog who started sleeping in a different room every night for 3 weeks. Always the room where the sick person would be found the next morning.